Call this meeting to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll start with a roll call. Ms. Klukowski. Here. Mr. Easterwood. Here. Ms. Susser. Here. Mr. Meyerholtz. Here. Mr. Babcock. Here. Mr. Warner. Here. Everyone had a chance to review the agenda. And what about the minutes from the previous meetings? Everyone had a chance to review those. Are there any changes or corrections? If not, a motion to mark as read. So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Righty, we have a little bit of old business. I believe an updated spreadsheet for the project prioritization for the grants. Does anyone have any discussion about that?
That's that vow.
Yep.
Project prioritization.
Christy said that she should have a list of grants to us sometime this week. She's working on that right now. So she said she was hoping to get that done and to us sometime this week.
Okay. All right. We also have the Prairie project proposal on old business. I think the only thing that's changed there is Stephanie had found a different bench combo that was a little less money. So,
And that's still going back to committee though?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're expecting that to go to community development and maybe back to council. Anything to add there? Okie doke, we have second reading of ordinance 2024 supplementing or the 2024 S13 supplement. This is removing old pages and inserting new pages. Let me find the actual ordinance.
You mind passing those down?
Sure.
Get up.
All right, this is updating the changes we made in our code. So this is an ordinance enacting and adopting supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the Village of Weston. We have the second reading of an ordinance repealing ordinance 28-05 and establishing cemetery rules, regulations, and restrictions. So this is, of course, putting into place the suggestions from the cemetery board and regarding the rules for the cemetery. You want to have any feedback for that? Okay. Constitutes a second reading. And then we have a second reading of resolution 2024-15. This is oh, that's the wrong resolution. I'm sorry. This is the resolution 2024 maybe 16. But it is a resolution submitting votes to fill a vacant board seat on the Northwestern Water and Sewer District. Yes, that might be -14. That's the second reading. Any feedback on that? Okay. I have nothing to report. Stephanie, do you have anything to report?
I have a report in the folder for everyone. Most of it is, stuff that's on the agenda, but I gotta double check. I think there was one thing that isn't necessarily on the agenda. And I don't know if it was in Harold's, report, but we had the front door was, having latching issues, and Northwood Door, who's the one that put it in, came out and serviced it, and it's working properly again, so we don't have to make sure we're pulling it shut and all that. That's good on its own and latches.
How long has it been?
Um,
Oh,
since it's been installed, 2 years. Yeah, he even replaced the batteries in the button too. He said he's surprised that it's lasted this long, so. And that's all I had. We, also we should be getting the contract documents for the Main Street project. Once those are all signed and returned to Feller Finch, Morlock will provide a date for start.
All right, awesome. Harold, anything to report?
Just with the roof situation down there. The insurance company suggested that I go ahead and get a hold of somebody that can put a roof on it. So I'm getting in contact with the people that work on this roof to get a quote on how much it's gonna cost to get that shit. So that way we can figure out what to do with the building.
We'll have some further discussion on that.
Was that the whole roof?
90% of it's gone. There's like one section that's left up there.
Yeah, and we're talking about the bus garage, of course.
Yeah.
Yep, he pretty much, I told him that the metal roof, the metal part of the roof is still, just everything else came off of it. He said, just get a quote and we'll go from there. He goes, we'll get it fixed. So he was pretty much just all right with fixing it.
Okay. Was there anything else in the storm that required any, or is each separate thing like a claim? Like I know we had electric come down.
That was the only thing that we were talking to the insurance company about, was just the bus garage, so.
Anything for Harold in council or even in the audience? Okay, anything to take back to Ken? I know he has a report in there. Maybe.
Yeah, there's one in there.
No permits since the previous report. Then it looks like he is following up on a variance for a fence on Sycamore Street and he mailed a letter to a Broadway address about a zoning issue, I guess. Okay, we had a couple committees since last meeting, so we can start with safety. You have a report on that?
Yeah, as soon as I find it. Okay, Safety Committee. Kowski, Jesse Kendall, Kim Schroeder, and myself in attendance. The minutes from the prior meeting were approved. 40 runs were at that time, 240 runs year to date. Tim Schroeder reported that unit 914 needs to be scheduled for repair and oil change. 914's had an ongoing issue, I guess, after it runs for a while, it shuts down. So he was trying to get it scheduled. Unit 915 has air conditioning, slow leak.
And he also stated he had some complaints concerning Wood County Hospital and the narcotics dispensing. The EMS medical director is working on the issue of the complaint. He also reported radio issues will require upgrades and quote has been requested. You know more about the radio situation, right, Glenn? Is that
Just an upgrade. It's
just the upgrade?
It's just an upgrade for link ladder. It's needs to be done. It's basically a software update.
Right. Kathy Hyman reported via email that EMS received the grant of, I think, approximately $6,600. Tim Schroeder stated that the grant money may be utilized for another class or a portion of it anyway. Rick inquired about the Milton Center contract issues, payment, and Stephanie emailed that information to me. I don't know, did you get it? Oh,
No, I think I just,
okay, I'll
Yeah.
forward it to you, Rick. That'll take care of your questions. I reported on the meeting with Kathy Hyman and Jamie Schroeder concerning the new EMS volunteer payment program. Discussed issues concerning total dollars per run to be dispersed and the importance of a monthly schedule. The three of us will meet one more time to hopefully complete a draft program for the committee to review. And then the meeting abruptly ended with an emergency run. So,
All right.
for a supposed train on fire. But I don't think you found it, did you?
Oh, it wasn't on fire.
It was laying down stone.
It was laying down stone. I saw it when the pager went off. I saw it in the glass. I'm like, oh, that's very cool. Yeah, they're just.
It looked like there was a wheel that was locked up and dragged down.
Well, there could have been a wheel locked up, but it wasn't not on fire.
And that was it. No
All right.
additional items.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Meyerholtz. We also had a public works meeting on the 27th.
In attendance was Harold, Bogg, Craig Warner, and Brittany Kukowski. I asked Harold on the start date, and he advised late September for Silver Street. Any updates on Main Street paving? No update at the time of the meeting. As for the start date for the crack ceiling, no update at the time of the meeting. This stuff is in his report now, but he was busy. Checking the status on the OPWC, waiting for Kleinfelter. Still waiting for an update on the sidewalk approaches to go over with K&K and Harold to meet up and advise the locations and approach of the approaches. Discussed HEMACOG for infrastructure analysis for the stormwater. Brittany was going to reach out to them. She remembers one of her meetings that they offered that, so she was going to try that. Ditch cleaning per the county engineers is set to be starting 27. Edison added streetlights for the additional two already in use lights. We are $1,900 each. These new lights and poles for Poplar, Beach, Orange. We need to see if the current assessment for lighting would cover this project. You know, so 2025 wish list. One, we start with water analysis and possible grant opportunities. 2, JPX quote for the Sycamore Street stormwater issues. 3 is to possibly pave Washington Street after the analysis to make sure we don't have to tear anything up for stormwater issues. Public Works recommends to keep the budget still at $75,000 for the 2025 because if we get the OPWC grant and SIB funding, this would be in line for the expenditures to come out of this fund and also give us the opportunity to pave Washington Street or something small to keep the roads updated as needed. Actionable items, move the rest of the ARPA money to the sidewalk fund to close that line item. I think that you recommended that,
yeah, we just have to pull it from the ARPA fund.
just to close that thing out. Asking council or the financing $75,000 for the 2025 budget. The meeting was called due to a storm at 7:30. So
You were almost done anyway.
yeah, we were almost done. We could have went on, but
Okay.
Power went out like
The power
20
went out.
minutes after.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, so you talked about cracks in, it looks like, it'll be later this month.
Mhm.
And also Main Street also looks, later this month, September. You had a couple actionable items, so ARPA to sidewalks that will require an ordinance, right? No?
No, you can't move money to other funds. You just pull from that fund.
I see, okay. Do we want like a on the record vote then to, okay, what was the total left in that?
It depends, because we're getting
About.
interest. It's in one of those folders, actually.
So,
The fund balance, hold on, I can pull it here real quick.
Back.
As of today, because I also just did the bank rec today, so there is $914.
All right, so do we have a motion to, I guess, allot the $914 then for the sidewalk project?
So moved.
Right. Second motion for that in a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
I do have one question concerning that on the approaches, just wondering. Is there any way that we can find out where we have possible residents that we could prioritize the approaches for convenience for them?
Certainly.
That's a great idea.
Obviously, I know Silver Street, but I got to thinking about some of the other areas that we may kind of look so that we prioritize those before we.
Yeah, we're trying to get with, Harold was supposed to get with Tim and K and come up with a
Right.
game plan to present back to us because,
Yeah, but we're asking like citizen specific.
yeah.
What does that effort look like?
So he's talking maybe citizens
Yeah.
that have mobility issues.
Yeah.
Right.
In certain areas of town or whatever, that we prioritize those areas.
Right. I guess I'm looking for suggestions on how to accomplish that, I guess.
I don't know whether,
I mean, the whole process for what we discussed was the gaps between the road and like
Right.
street, things of that nature, not so much making a new sidewalk, but
No.
just making sure that you can get from point A to point B off these things and
Right.
that will come. I mean, if anybody from the village has a suggestion as far as what their need might need, but
I just don't know how we get the input to find out where those areas are.
We could try.
Small enough town, I think we could.
That's what I was thinking, we could
was
try a
thinking,
reach
and, like,
alert.
You can look at the entries to their homes and see if they have accessible.
Yeah, but he's talking about like people that live in those homes.
Yeah.
Right, like I have a few in mind.
Oh, I see.
Like context clues,
Right,
yeah.
We could also try like a reach alert and just ask them to call about the town.
I mean, the other thing we could do is identify all of the ones in need and then put that out to the public and kind of, ask for input on any of them if
Yeah, there's a-
finds,
There's a lot of them.
Right,
No doubt about it.
right. So then, of course, we
Utilize the
can,
Village Facebook page.
yeah,
That'd be a good start.
We could do something like what I put out for the Toledo Edison thing.
Yeah, that seemed to work.
so Harold, are we kind of expecting from you just a map with all the potential locations?
Yeah, I
A little bit of info, maybe.
started a list the other day and I had 4 or 5 at the meeting and then we took off. And I don't know what happened in my paper, but I had 4 or 5 intersections where there was nothing there at all. So
So that's gonna come back to that committee, I'm assuming. So, all right, it's great. And then, you said you had a $75,000 recommendation for the budget. And so
keep the budget
put
75.
that on record, I guess, and take that back to administrative process. Okay, we also had a special ball committee meeting on the 29th.
In attendance, Rob Meyerhold, Steve Babcock, Jessica Schuster, Luann Hunt, and Brittany Kukowski. Committee members reviewed and approved additions and updates to the previous meeting's minutes. Discussed potential options for the payment of the porta pots at the Ball Diamonds and a collaboration process for developing solutions to be included in a contractual ordinance. One option included the village paying for the porta potty with no lease amount or vice versa. Items to be considered and discussed include the porta pots, utilities, lease terms, and equipment usage and or ownership. Decided that the contractual ordinance would be drafted in baseball special committee, reviewed by the attorney for additions or corrections, then sent to Public Works for review regarding lands and buildings permissions, and then on to council for official proceedings. A rough timeline was discussed and agreed upon, keeping in mind the Sports Initiatives Board goal of being a 501c3 by the beginning of the year, or as close to that as possible for tax purposes. Existing challenges and opportunities to be communicated with the Sports Initiative Board, a review of the current purchase threshold in regard to accommodating a council vote for approval when necessary, only making purchases using tax exempt locations and potentially getting registered as tax exempt with Dollar General, better alignment with the standards of the Wood County Health Department and options for future growth, pricing adjustments and policies that will continue to protect the future of the concession stand. Answered questions from the Weston Sports Initiative Board representative regarding filing for an EIN number and 501c3 papers. The committee also discussed reaching out to the village attorney to potentially help or give a referral for answering questions and filing the appropriate paperwork. The special committee would also like legal clarification regarding the proper process for equipment transfers to be added into the draft ordinance, and additionally need to reach out to Stephanie asking about the origin of the current youth league email address and whether the Sports Initiative Board will need to get a new email. I added an update. I met with Stephanie the following day to communicate the changes and updates to the minutes, questions for Paul, and the board email. The email is not a weston.org and does not need to be replaced. The suggestion was also made to start considering options for marketing and communications to help direct members of the community to the Sports Initiative Board after the village transition to 501c3 is completed. Potential options to consider include village newsletter, village website, and Facebook pages. Next meeting is scheduled for September 17th at 6 p.m. Actionable items, a council discussion of the division of concession stand equipment, and ask for the purchasing threshold policy to be moved to committee for review.
Okay, so, to Administrative Process Committee,
Sure.
okay. Any issues with that? Sounds good. And then Division of Equipment, so any thoughts on that?
For instance, they have the refrigerator systems for the Gatorade, the pot and stuff. We're not positive who purchased them, what line item that came out of. If we decide to continue to own them, then we need to maintain and replace them if they break. If we allow them to own them, we don't have to maintain or replace. A lot of their small equipment, they purchased out of the line item that is solely money raised for softball, baseball. So that should belong to them, and transfer easily. But we have to make that decision and put a vote to it and kind of decide how to divide that up. Another piece of equipment that came up was the mower. Do we?
The drag unit, you mean?
Yeah, the drag unit. Do we own that? Then we maintain it as well, and purchase a new if we need. If we don't, then we would have to leave it if we need it for the walking path or any other use we may have. So these are things we need to kind of discuss out loud. And
Do they have a preference?
when the drag unit came up, I want to say that was April. They preferred that we would own the drag unit and maintain it, and they would use it. In previous meetings, we had discussed potentially having them pay the utilities and such in lieu of a lease payment. So they wouldn't actually rent the land from us, but they would continue to pay garbage, electricity, all the utilities. So maybe something in line with that for the drag unit. Same thing with the equipment. So either we're paying them to lease or they're paying us to lease.
With the SI, the Sports Initiative Board, are they, now that we have potential 2 fall softball leagues, one right after or during normal ones, is all that being taken consideration because they utilize all this stuff too? So I mean, is that figured in with that Sports Initiative as far as the adult leagues?
The adult leagues are paying the board,
Okay, so
and then the board pays the utilities. So
Yeah, they're
however they.
cooperating with it.
so it's kind of like a hand in hand type thing.
Mhm. So they
Yeah,
figure their cost and then they charge the adult.
We encouraged them to work with the Sports Initiative Board.
Okay.
But that is a good point, because we do have, at least one other team that uses the field now. They don't use the lime or the concession stand, but they've been using it as like home field / practice. That's that softball team, the girls softball team. So, I think there's a lot to discuss there. So, I mean, like lands and buildings, I think there's the discussion that can be had there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all did. Yeah, I would love to have a discussion there, but it's also how we want to go about doing it as a
Sure.
whole, right?
Yeah, and of course, if there's any other off the cuff thoughts.
She mentioned refrigerator. To me, or cooler, whatever you want to call it. To me, it serves us no purpose as a village to hold on to that. That kind of stuff like that should be just signed over to them. Because it's a gamble either way.
Yeah.
And it can go to crap next month or next season, and they might be out. But I get that, but it sees all that stuff down there serves no purpose to us. Maybe with the drag unit, but to me, I also think the drag unit should stay with them. So
How do you know Parks and Recs uses it sometimes, like the snow cone machine they just use for a block party,
that's
stuff like that?
I think that they could work that out with the
Parks and Rec.
501c3.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they can, as far as village owned property, I don't think at that point it's no longer village owned.
I guess my thought though is if you do like leave a bunch of stuff in that building that the 501c3 owns, and then the village still owns the building, you're kind of like limiting your use of that building for anything other than the 501c3 because they have so many kind of assets in there.
I agree.
I mean, they're not gonna like take their coolers out. So that's something I guess to keep in mind.
As far as replacements and stuff like that, I think that perfectly falls under the the SIB, Sports Initiative Board, or whatever, 501c3. Everything else, it should be working hand in hand. Hey, can we borrow the popcorn machine? Can we do this? Can we do that? Yes or no? That should be up to the board members and whomever's borrowing it, whether that's my opinion.
The reason I'm asking is because we're gonna be drafting the ordinance. And it's on our agenda to try and get to a good draft to Public Works by the end of September. So
So by digging that discussion in Public Works, for you to take the whole thing to Public Works, is that?
So because we've been discussing the different intricacies of what the agreement would entail, that's why we decided that the draft would start with our committee. And then go to Public Works. But if it goes to Public Works,
So you want to keep that in committee, you're just kind of looking for suggestions maybe?
yes,
Okay.
so we can at least get a good rough draft going to hand off to them. And then if you guys need to change something, then they can change it before it comes to council for readings. But that was one thing we had ideas on, but we wanted a full council weigh in before we decided.
Could we find out from Paul whether that would have to be an ordinance or whether we could draw a straight contract up referencing the ordinance, because I think if you have the separate contract rather than an ordinance, it's a lot easier to amend the contract from the standpoint of if there's something they want changed, you know, year after year or something of that nature. To me, that makes more sense. But I'm just wondering if it can be done. I don't.
Right. I guess I was thinking the ordinance would just be like a one-time, like transitional thing.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Right.
I think the contract for all of this other stuff should be a separate contract. The ordinance is just the turnover of the responsibilities. Because I think if you try to put all that stuff in an ordinance.
I was gonna say, I think that's how you did it with the fire department. It was just, you know,
It can be.
Right.
and then everything else was figured out outside of that ordinance, so.
Everything else was the township's.
Yeah.
Lord. All right. Okay, does that take care of, does that help you out? A couple upcoming meetings. We have the cemetery on Thursday at 6, administrative next Monday at 6, community development, that next Tuesday, the 10th at 6, Parks and Rec Wednesday, the 11th at 6:30. And then we have a planning commission variance on the 18th at 6 p.m. Safety on the 23rd at 6 p.m. and Public Works on the 24th at 6.
Is that variance on the fence?
Mhm.
Is that what it is?
Mhm.
I gotta find out what the location is at.
It's right on the corner property of,
Does it interfere with anything trying to turn the corner or whatever?
I don't think so.
it could be if you're coming north on Sycamore. But, I mean, that's the purpose of the variance.
Oh, I understand.
Ordinance, because they have 2 frontal lots.
I know, I understand.
That's just a corner lot, and that's the way it has to get done on everything.
Okay, so we saw in the fiscal officer report, about, resolution 2024-15. So we had previously arranged with Morlock that they would bill us directly for Silver Street. But it turns out they actually billed the township. And so now we need to, get approval of this then and now purchase order.
Township get a commission or something?
Right? Yeah, so there was also a couple $100 difference from what we were expecting. Okay, so I got a resolution authorizing expenditure and declaring an emergency. That's the simplest title ever. So
So what it does is it closes the purchase order to Morlock and allows me to open a then and now, which is like a backdated purchase order to the township for the amount that they billed us, which was the 25%.
and that's $8,652.75. And of course, this is that quarter of Silver Street that was paved.
Is there a reason that there was a difference in the dollar amount?
Morlock actually measured, the township just did a 25% when they came to us last year and got approval for it. We approved 25% up to 9,000, so that's what they continued to bill us at.
Oh, that's nice.
We saved $350.
What? No, it's over.
Up to 9,000.
Yeah, the township's bill is higher than, Morlock bill would have been if they would have billed us directly.
The township did.
Okay, do we have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Second. Roll call, Ms. Kukowski, Mr. Easterwood.
Yes.
Ms. Souza, Mr. Meyerhold.
Yes.
Mr. Babcock. Ms. Warner.
Yes.
And do we have a motion to, pass resolution 2024-15 as a
Move.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Council had a chance to review the bills. Motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All Right, and then also also in the fiscal officer report, there was some information in there about the health insurance renewal. So the rate is increasing 7.4%. Looks like there was an attempt made to negotiate, but it wasn't granted. But the new rate remains within our budget. We just need to approve whether to proceed with the current plan with the 7.4% increase or to explore other options. If we
happen to say that it might be worthwhile to explore other options, normally they will tell you whether or not.
It just says if we do decide to shop around, we need to start soon.
Yeah,
We
they
need to
didn't,
finalize everything. by
they
the
didn't
15th of
say,
October.
she did mention that everyone's increased. Oh,
I have heard.
yeah, but yeah, she didn't say if it was worth, exploring other,
7.4 is hefty as compared to even like the schools and things of that nature. I know theirs is only going up about 3 to 4%.
Could be,
Now, it all depends on,
on the employees.
yeah, it depends on the employees. The underwriting. You said it still is with.
yeah.
Are there any recommendations? We could,
Motion to keep it same,
okay,
because we're pushing that envelope. Open
Yeah.
enrollment starts in November or October or something like that on just about everybody's insurance. So if we're gonna find something, we need to start early in the season.
okay, so we have a motion to keep the same.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then of course, we had just discussion on the storm damage / old bus garage, and so Harold kind of went over that a little bit. Looks like we've reached out to insurance. They're looking for quotes to replace the roof on that beautiful building.
Make a suggestion on that. We get a quote for both the rolled tar roof and therefore a peak roof, like a steel covered roof.
Yeah.
To better,
Insurance
It might be
probably won't
better
pay
for
for
the-
that.
not 100% certain, but if it comes cheaper, they might.
That'd be cheaper.
Okay. A little bit of direction there, that's fine.
I can do that.
Any other discussion?
The only, just knowing the bus garage and trying to put a peaked roof on that in the condition that it's in, especially with the lintels and everything over the doors. And of course, you were there when we inspected it before, Harold.
Yeah.
That might be a real push to even try to put that much weight on it, quite honestly. Just knowing what I saw.
Yeah, I'm not saying it is, but I'm not an engineer, so
Yeah.
let them figure it out. Cause
I'm not an engineer either, but when I see a crack down a corner all the way
Like,
top to bottom,
that crack could be sitting there from water just retaining on there too.
it's structural. We checked it.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
saying
a settling.
water laying on the roof, they could be doing that too. I mean, it's a lot of weight.
If we don't replace the roof, what's the option?
Probably tear it down.
Well, no, I'm saying the rolled roof would probably is fine, but if you're adding the peak and everything, that's adding weight to the whole building. And that's my concern, because we know the foundation and the structure is not in good shape overall. I think somebody quoted, what was the quote to repair that, Harold? Something like $50,000 to structurally repair that?
It was like 15.
Is it 15?
Yeah.
Okay,
That 15 was to do everything, to mortar all the cracks
yeah.
and replace all the bricks and paint it. Firewalls and paint the whole thing.
Yeah, but they were also gonna replace part of the foundation too.
Yeah. So it was like 15 grand. That was a couple of years ago though. So it might go up
That was probably before COVID rates.
probably.
I think it was.
Okay, well, it sounds like you at least have some direction to get some quotes on the roof and we can go from there. Other miscellaneous business, we had standing committee request. Is everyone aware of that email?
Yes.
Does anybody see an issue on that regarding to committee within the council rules?
I personally feel like we would have to create another committee.
Are you on three?
What the big?
But why should Craig lose a seat on any of the committees that
I'm
he's
not
already
sure.
been involved in for most of the thing?
But what's it gonna hurt? I mean,
Craig's already been involved in projects in all of those committees for most of the year.
Does someone have to lose a seat to have someone else out?
Yeah, because all committees are 3 people.
The ordinance specifically says only 3 members per committee.
3
I
members.
think this was brought up before and were we not going to? This was brought up before. I don't remember how we left it.
I think the general idea was either leave it until next year.
No, that was one of the options.
Or figure out something else. And we didn't vote either way.
Yeah,
I think we're at the
recall
point
there
right now,
was
figuring out
options
something
and
else.
not really resolution.
Right.
My feeling is if we do it this year, we have to create another committee.
How can you create another committee? That means.
Just to add a committee.
Add one, that doesn't make no,
What is the downside of moving me from one committee?
obviously, we probably wouldn't remove you, whatever you're chairing.
Well, obviously, and you wouldn't remove me from Public Works because the tradition is that the chair of finance or chair of administrative policy is on Public Works.
Whether one you're on.
Community development.
Well, the rules of council didn't seem to apply before when I was pulled from finance committee. When it stated I should have stayed on finance committee, but that didn't happen.
I guess, Mr. Meyerholtz, I just wish you would work with me. Spend a couple times stated on the record that you just refused to work with me.
It's
And,
not a case of working with people. I work with council people.
I know, but
That's my job.
I mean, this process is inherently has me involved. So,
It doesn't have to have you involved.
I mean, that's how it's written. Recommended by the mayor.
And it's council rules that I'd be put in.
I mean, it's
But
both.
what is considered a standing committee? Because this is
Standing committee is the committees that are
right.
assigned.
And
that you're assigned.
does it say that you have to be assigned to more than one?
Administrative, public works, public safety, community
And
development.
I haven't read council rules in a while. Is it
Yeah.
that you have to be on more than one?
Yeah, you guys just amended it
Yeah.
to say that everyone has to be on 2.
But we amended it after the first of the year.
Right.
And this is what I recall of our last conversation, but it was never voted or decided, which is, at the first meeting of the year, we decided to postpone it to the second meeting of the year, but the mayor suggests committee is the first meeting. But because of the election process this year and everyone being sworn in and the new president, we gave it one more meeting before he suggested. I contacted you guys and I suggested chairs as president. It was after that we amended the rules. So the committees had already been suggested, approved, and voted on. So when we amended the rules, it was my understanding that it would take effect the following year. But that's my personal understanding. That's where I recall the conversation kind of falling last time we had it. And we didn't vote to say, is it gonna wait till the following year or is it gonna happen now? That's what I recall. I don't know what you guys.
That's what I remember.
Rob, what's your solution to your proposal?
Put me on a standing committee.
No, that's your goal. What's your solution to reach your goal?
That is the goal.
That's
Okay, but
it's all in
so
one.
what's your plan? Do you have a plan?
What's the operations for it? But I don't know if that's Rob's goal to figure out.
Mm-mm.
That is our role to figure out how. whether Rob wants to be on a standing committee, whether or not he gets on, how he gets on one is up to the rest of us.
I think it's fair to ask if he has a suggestion on how to accomplish that.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay. I understand.
How to accomplish what?
How to put you onto a standing committee.
Well, the mayor would have to put me on what he feels as though he recommends. And then council would approve it based on,
Okay, so if it went 100% how it is in your brain, how would the mayor, what committee would the mayor appoint you to, that kind of stuff?
That's not his decision.
He's not asking for a particular committee.
No.
He's asking to be put on another committee to make it fair via the council rules.
I understand that. I
I
didn't
will
know.
say that even though you said it's traditionally done, the committees and the descriptions, it doesn't say that a member of administrative process.
But I didn't-
Public work.
Wasn't
So that does open it up a little bit, but
I think it's bad. I think it's bad operations to take the chair of administrative policy off the Public Works Committee.
Again, I guess I'm just wondering how I accomplish this if that council member is unwilling to work with me.
number one, I'm elected to the position. And the position that I was elected to calls for the fact that I'm put on 2 standing committees. Plain and simple. That's
Well, and I think
with council.
we've discussed the nuance of that, so.
I haven't heard a very good solution to the problem.
There's only one solution to the problem. Either the mayor appoints him or he doesn't. I mean,
Two solutions. The other solution is to wait until the first.
yeah, I mean,
I
yeah,
was gonna say, we can motion to take a vote on whether to wait till the beginning of the year or appoint now. It's a council
So
decision.
are we making but does it have to be, so we're gonna wait till the first of the year. Does that mean that Mr. Meyerholtz gets on 2 committees?
At the first of the year?
Yeah.
It means every council member will have at least 2, if not more. At the first of the year. That's the rule that we amended. So as far as council goes, from the way I see it, the only thing that we can do is vote to have it now or later. But as far as where Rob goes, that's not our say. But that's just my opinion.
I'll make a motion to wait till the first year.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm gonna stay.
All right. Still open to meeting. All right, we have a couple visitors, in the front there. Hello, sir. Do you have business with council? Sure. Government or?
Yeah, I go.
Awesome. All right. Well, we love having you here. Anything from mom? No? Okay. Shirley in the back?
I just want to make an announcement that the Methodist Church is going to sell mums the 14th of this month
Nice.
from 10 to 5. 10 to 5.
What's the date again?
14th.
September.
Is it okay to put that on Reach Alert?
Yeah, the policy says that we just have to recommend it, so.
What time are they selling? What time?
10 to 5.
10 to 5.
And you gotta like go up to the Methodist church and.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll be outside there.
Yeah.
All set up.
All right, so a vote to put that on Reach Alert?
It's a fundraiser for the church.
Great.
Will it be pre-order, sure? No, I'll have them right there. I'll have to pick from.
So do we need to make a motion?
I think you already did.
Great.
A second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Just remember that that policy also reads that any like committee chairman or whatever can recommend a reach alert go out. They just need to let the fiscal officer know, and then she'll kind of have it in draft mode for 24 hours, and then you can send that out. So if there's any other, community things that could be reach alerted, that is the policy. Anything else really?
And we'd welcome everybody to come to church on Sunday if they would like. Starts at 10:30.
Okay. Thank you for the invite. Randy?
Thank you. I would like to say, first of all, that we're all obviously aware of the storm that took place a week ago. I came around the corner onto Main Street, and I think it was you that was standing out blocking the tree so that I didn't run into it. Yeah. I appreciate the effort. And
Well, you didn't hit my car or hit me, so I served the purpose.
if you hadn't been wearing the reflective gear, I probably would have run into that tree. It was that unvisible. I personally did some driving around, and I saw a tree that was down on Russ Street, and I was able to let Harold know about it, and that was taken care of as well.
Yep.
So it was an outstanding effort that was made during the storm. I know there was some cutting of wood that needed to be done the following day, and that's kind of what leads me to my concern. Some years ago, I was introduced to some of the dangers that can occur with chainsaw operation and chipper operation. And there's a learning curve that's involved with the use of those equipments, as well as proper usage of PPE, personal protective gear. I'm not sure that all visitors or all volunteers to some of the operations are necessarily properly indoctrinated, as well as perhaps not properly insured. I don't know the answers to that. That's what I'm trying to ask in a proactive fashion. I can foresee that there's a possibility of severe injury if somebody is not properly trained. And I think it would be a good idea that maybe safety committee ought to be looking into what types of things can be done in a proactive fashion to provide training, not only for city employees, but also for any volunteers. And perhaps also consider if it's appropriate to say this is not something that a volunteer should be doing because of the nature of the equipment and the potential for risk. So anyhow, like I said, I really was pleased with the effort that was made during the storm. And in the future, I would hope to be able to see that we'll continue to get a great response, but nobody get hurt. And so if you might be able to take a look at that and see what can be done, I think it would be appropriate.
Okay, anything else?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Howard?
Nothing right now.
Nothing? Sue? Thanks for coming.
I did follow up with Ruth Ann House, who's the director of GLCAP, that some of you did seem to be unfamiliar with. That was the former WSOS. It's our Community Action Center. They have a lot of programs that I think the village could probably take advantage of, or it just would be helpful to know about, including like the weatherization and housing and their planning and community development. She had said she would be happy to send someone to present to council or whatever vehicle you would want to use, committees or whatever. And she would send either the PR director or a couple of folks. And she said, would you rather have people more relative to community development and planning? And I didn't know if you were interested.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. And kind of when I'll be going there next week. Next Tuesday's our board meeting. I represent the county for GLCAP. And just wondered.
I guess my only recommendation would be if you think it's a lengthy discussion, that maybe a committee would be more appropriate.
Well, and it may be broken down. I was thinking more of an introduction of realizing kind of what was out there, because their programs are very wide.
Okay, so maybe if it's an introduction at first, maybe council would be more appropriate.
Yeah.
Because then each of the committees could kind of take away from it.
Do they have like literature flyers and stuff? So
They do have some, but I don't think it really gets to, you know, what they have done. They've done things in the past with Weston, but it's been pretty far back. You were probably on the council then when WSOS did a few things. Yeah. And they do have, you know, things. They tend, of course, their main office is in Fremont, so it tends not to be Wood County specific unless Wood County makes some effort, you know, to take advantage of those programs. So in any case, I think it would have to be a little bit more than the 3 minutes
Right.
here, but
Yeah.
if you know that you're going to have a fairly short council meeting, maybe a 10-minute or something like that would be.
Yeah, I think we can fit that in. I guess see what dates they're comfortable
That they're
with
available.
sending.
Okay.
Yeah, just in the near future
And we don't have anything else it's always Mondays, right? I mean, otherwise, except for this.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
I don't think there's any other Tuesdays the rest
Yeah, I
of
think
this
it's-
year.
Yeah, that's probably got it. Okay, I will check that then.
First and third Mondays since the 1900s. So. Okay, well, I believe that's everybody.
The virtual
Oh,
people.
I'm sorry. Forgot about you, Mr. Dallas. Anything for council?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I just wanted to kind of go back to the, sports initiative with the potential 501c3. And I just wondered, because I've been involved in it in the past, what kind of revenue would they be looking at initially with the youth baseball, the adult softball, and the concession stand? What kind of revenue does that generate per year?
I think around 15,000, something like that. I think that's a
Really?
good estimate. Yeah.
Because some of those grants and things, as you know, have been matching grants or, you know, some percentage. So I just wondered what they were playing with to start to initiate, like the mower and things of that nature. So that would be a great total. Where does that go today? Is that the general fund?
No, that goes into a special fund. So that's specifically for youth ball or ball in general.
Well, yeah, the youth ball, but you also have the adult softball that pays to play there too. And
Yeah,
then the
it's just a special fund for ball.
period, like
Yes.
overall umbrella.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the concession stand is included.
Yes. Yep.
And who
Yeah,
today
so-
manages that money? I mean, because it would be important to get them involved in the next steps.
Well, I mean, they're absolutely involved. So we have a special council committee that's working with the members of the Sports Initiative Board. And then, of course, they have a council liaison and then Stephanie to work with for the fiscal officer side. So, I mean, there's lots of collaboration going on right there.
Okay, so all that's recorded. I mean, that's all public knowledge then.
Sure. Yep.
Perfect. I was kind of curious on what the expenditures could be or would be for the 501c3 and what their starting balance would be, because that's kind of important to
Yeah.
launch.
Well, I think the goal of having them formed by the first of the year would enable them to have their baseball banner sponsorship fundraiser happen, and all the revenue from that could go into, you know, their 501c3 fund. And I believe that generates, this is rough, but like 5,000 or 6,000 or something like that. And so, you know, that would be a great, you know, start for them to be able to cover, you know, kind of some of the initial costs. As far as the remaining balance, you know, this is still up for discussion in the special council committee, but I think we've indicated in the past that, we'd like to, if they're going to use that, we'd like to see them use it for kind of some larger purchases. But then they also generate, about, 5 or 6 or 7,000 from, like signups itself. And then obviously the rest of the revenue is from concessions.
So past experience would state that the village then would lease it to them for $1 and they would hold their own liability insurance.
I think that's what's under discussion right now.
We found
Yeah,
that the best way to do it because it relieves the village of any responsibility for injuries or things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a great suggestion.
That's how we performed it in the past. That's why I was involved in one for 10 years. That's how we
Right.
rented from the Legion that for $1 a year, and then we were responsible for the $1 million liability insurance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think they would have to have, some kind of insurance.
They're currently looking.
Yeah, we discussed that with them, so that's on their agenda. But, as far as like the lease amount, I think we're, looking to cover like the costs associated with, the utilities at the concession stand, possibly the electric usage, from the lights or the operation of the porta pots. That's what's being discussed right now.
Okay, those could also be put under that 501c3 as far as a expense, as long as you have a contract agreement for the year prior to your grant or your billings.
Right.
If you're applying.
And that's what the special committee is working on.
Gotcha. Okay. Just checking in to see about that.
Yep. I don't know did you miss the beginning of the meeting?
No, I heard it, but it was a bit confusing because you were bouncing between the committee and then the special committee and things of
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
So-
All right. Well, we're glad we could straighten that out a little. All right. Thank you, Ron.
Thanks.
Ms. Patel, anything for council?
Hi guys. So I want to say hats off to the town. That storm was something. I appreciate everyone pitching in together during it. We kept the market open until 3 or 4 in the morning and actually had customers coming in. We had a generator going, a lot of citizens helping us save our stuff. So I couldn't be prouder. That's all
Great.
I have to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for letting us know. I didn't know about that. Anything else?
He's muted.
I know. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Patel. All right. And I guess with that, that's everyone. Do you want to speak to that? The training?
Oh, yeah. So I have, since we have quite a bit of time, we can do our 6-minute fraud training. I have Dean, Rob, Jessica, Jeremy that still have to do it. Everybody else can leave if you
Okay.
want, unless you want to sit through it again. And I'm just gonna play it through our meeting and then we can, unless you want to adjourn now. That way people know that we are gonna be in here for another, I don't know, 10 minutes or so doing some. How do you want to do that?
Can't really adjourn if.
That's,
I would like to stay. I would like to stay if that's okay.
because even if there's still 4 of, or no. 1, 2, 3. No, there's only 3 of you that would be present.
I don't-
Craig took it too.
I don't know that we can we make it to where Ashley can hear it?
She should be able to. I gotta close out this share and then I'll bring up the other screen.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll stay in session then.
Yeah, I would also like to be included. Thank you.
Almost for being the student of the month.
You could leave early, just be on the record. You can leave.
Good job. We can do it 3 times.
I don't want to do it 3 times.
Are 4 people staying?
I'm gonna put this under your, no, only 3 council members. Yeah, there's 3 have taken it, and 3 haven't. I'm gonna put this under your email,
Okay.
cause I already took it, so it won't let me. Oops.
Would have to go back through.
You were pointing to me, right?
Form or something.
What?
You were pointing to me, right?
Yep.
I guess so. I don't know what you're. So how do the council members that haven't taken it? How do they get their certificate?
You'll just watch the video.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have to, she's got a hand, she's
Yeah,
got
I have
a
a handout
bypass form.
since it's, there's a log here.
You would log in on your own, you'd get.
Yeah, I got the
So,
certificate, so.
Another form on the back.
I did it too.
Sign.
We realized we had 3 slackers there. Well, Bob had problems.
Internet issues,
I
right?
tried to do it last week and she was like, we're gonna do it after the meeting. I'm like, okay.
Everybody's safety. And it should be appropriate for the supervisor to say. You're addressed.
I'm on
Saying you weren't.
This training is.
Supervisor.
I think I saw this.
So then, wait, what is that? That situation?
So more later.
I'm glad you did.
Where's my notes?
You already got it. Yeah, I missed all the excitement. I mean, I heard the roof go on the garage.
Those of you that
Oh,
are
really?
virtual, can you see the, screen, the training screen?
We can see it.
All right, perfect.
Hi, I'm Auditor of State Keith Faber. This training is a result of a recently enacted law and is now required for nearly all Ohio public employees. This training will provide you with the tools necessary to detect and report fraud and maintain the strict ethical standards required by your position. Too often, my office is required to issue findings for recovery of taxpayer dollars or other sanctions against Ohio entities and employees that could have been avoided. This training will provide you with the knowledge to help you avoid these penalties associated with fiscal wrongdoing. More importantly, it will assist you in recognizing potential criminal activity by others and give you the information necessary to report it to law enforcement or the Auditor's Special Investigations Unit. As public servants, we are expected to do our jobs with the utmost honesty as we serve Ohio's taxpayers. I thank you for your service to Ohioans, and if you have any questions after the training, please feel free to contact us at the Auditor's Office at either ohioauditor.gov or 1-866-FRAUD-OH. Thank you.
Welcome to the Ohio Auditor of State's training video on reporting fraud, waste, and abuse in government. As public employees, it's our responsibility to ensure that taxpayer dollars are used efficiently, effectively, and transparently. That requires a rigid adherence to the ethical behavior that taxpayers across Ohio have come to expect from us. The overwhelming majority of public employees come to work and do their jobs with the highest level of professionalism and pride. But on occasion, there are bad actors who take advantage of their access to public funds and resources. These types of behaviors are rare, but when they do occur, no matter how big or small, it severely erodes the public's trust in our work. Before we begin, here's a bit of background. The brief training you're about to receive is just one layer of a robust fraud reporting training that is required by law of all state and local government employees. Each public employee is required to receive this training during their initial onboarding and every 4 years thereafter. By learning the signs of fraud, knowing your responsibilities when fraudulent behavior in government occurs, and knowing how to report fraud to the appropriate authorities, you can play a key role in preventing loss of taxpayer resources. And as a public employee with an inside perspective to the day-to-day doings of government, you are the first line of defense in stamping out fraud, waste, and abuse. Let's begin by defining our 3 main categories: fraud, waste, and abuse, and then look at examples of each in the context of state and local government. First, fraud. Fraud in government refers to intentional deception or misrepresentation for personal gain or to deceive the public. This could include embezzlement, bribery, or falsifying documents, such as timesheets or financial statements. Let's look at an example. In 2019, an employee of Smith Village created fake invoices for services that were never provided. They arranged for a family member to receive the contract to provide those services. When the invoices were paid, the employee and their accomplice pocketed the money. This scheme lasted for 3 years before being discovered, resulting in losses totaling $30,000. Now let's look at waste. Waste in government occurs when resources are used carelessly or extravagantly without adequate oversight, resulting in unnecessary costs to taxpayers. This might include overpaying for goods or services, unnecessary spending on projects, or even an intentionally inefficient process for a routine task. Let's look at an example. The Office of Finance is looking to purchase new technology for its team. The department decided to purchase desktop PCs for all administrative employees, all of whom had already been issued laptops. As a result of this oversight, many employees decided they don't need the new machines, and the PCs end up in storage, unused and wasting taxpayer funds. If the Office of Finance had issued the machines only to employees who needed them, they could have saved money. And lastly, abuse. Abuse excludes fraud and noncompliance and involves actions that a prudent person would determine to be unreasonable based on the circumstances, such as requesting reimbursement for an expensive meal or asking an assistant to pick up dry cleaning during working hours. Let's look at an example. The Director of Communications frequently has his clothes dry cleaned. It's common practice that he sends his admin out once a week to the dry cleaners 20 minutes from the office. Not only should the director be responsible for his own laundry, but it is also obviously inappropriate to have the admin run errands on state time. It's important to know that the examples provided are not comprehensive or exhaustive definitions of fraud, waste, or abuse. But if something doesn't look right, it's probably worth looking into. It's crucial for us to remain vigilant and report any suspicions of fraud, waste, or abuse. Suspect fraud? Speak up. We'll do the rest. Let's take a moment to discuss how you can report suspected bad behavior to the Ohio Auditor's Special Investigation Unit. Ohio law requires that any known instance of fraud, waste, or abuse be reported to the Ohio Auditor of State. There are several options you can use to make a report. You can report online through the auditor's website. Make a call to our Special Investigations Unit and speak to our intake specialists. This may require you to leave a message outside of business hours, but our staff will contact you. Send an email to our Special Investigations Unit that details the information you want to report. Make a report through mail, sending our Special Investigations Unit a narrative and any substantiating documentation you may have. All public organizations have a working relationship with staff at the Ohio Auditor's Office. If you suspect fraud, waste, or abuse, you could make a report to a member of our audit team. In this case, they could assist you in providing the necessary information to our Special Investigations Unit. Anyone who makes a report to the Auditor of State's Special Investigation Unit should expect one of our intake specialists or investigators to reach out to them. The more information that you can provide, the greater we're able to thoroughly investigate your claim. Remember, making the report is the first step in stamping out unethical and illegal behavior in government. It's important to note that public employees are protected against disciplinary action or retaliation from their employer for making a reasonable and good faith report of suspected fraud, theft in office, or misuse or misappropriation of public money. That means your good faith report of suspected fraud should not impact your role or status as a government employee. Thank you for taking the time to watch this important training video. By working together to detect and prevent fraud, waste, and abuse, we can ensure that taxpayer dollars are used responsibly, effectively, and transparently. Remember, it's up to all of us to uphold the integrity of state and local government in Ohio.
All right, meeting adjourned.